You have successfully joined the webcast. Please stand by. The meeting will begin shortly.
Okay, welcome to the Village of Wapton Falls second monthly meeting of the Mayor and the Board of Trustees. Today's Wednesday, August 30th. Please stand for the pledge. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Clerk, roll call.
Roll call. Mayor Huber.
Present.
Trustee Nicholas.
Here.
Trustee Chelishak.
Here.
Trustee Nesnick.
Here.
Trustee Williams.
Here.
Trustee Ruffin.
Here.
Trustee Smith.
Absent.
Absent. Village Attorney Lindars.
Absent.
Absent. Authorization to pay bills as per approved warrants.
I'll make that motion.
All in favor?
I'll give a second to that motion.
Second. All right, Mike.
Who was it?
Mike. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
At this point, we're going to have a presentation by Mr. Todd Schroeder from ATI Flowbird to present.
Thank you, and thank you for having, presenting us the opportunity to present our expertise in the field of parking kiosks and what's going on in the industry, what some of other municipalities, private entities, and parks are doing with parking. So with that, I can't get the projector to work, so I'm going to be flexible here, and I ask that everyone else be flexible, and I'll move around, make sure everyone has an opportunity to see the slides that we're presenting. So
Turn the lights off if you want.
that would be great.
We got a little bit.
So my company is Access Technology Integration, and we are the leader in this area of parking revenue control systems, CCTV, and building access control systems. And today, I'm going to talk a little bit more about the parking revenue control side of the business. Okay? And anyone stop me along the way if you have any questions, unless you want to do that afterwards.
Doesn't matter. It's up to you.
So we're a systems integrator. Solutions that are on the market and combine it with municipalities, universities, private entities, anyone who has a system that already exists, we can integrate with it and bring a solution to the market. Flowbird, the company that we represent, we're a distributor for them. They are the largest on-street meter company in the world. They combined with the second largest several years ago. They have over 5,000 customers. They're in 75 countries, 32 million annual revenue, and they're investing in what we like to refer to as a mobility platform. And I'll get into that for you. Essentially, mobility platform is no longer a meter where you put in a quarter, a nickel, a dime. It's mobility, moving about a municipality, taking and giving solutions to the community that fit the way that they want to interact with the technologies that are available. So somebody may want to take and present or pay at a pay station, as an example. Somebody else, some of your younger demographic may want to take and pay using a mobile app. You can also tie it into FareGen or Train. It's one solution that fits the various mobilities around a community. The kiosk is solar powered, stainless steel, and 9-inch display is what they're up to at this particular juncture. It's a touch screen, and it has the ability not only to take and charge for parking, it has the opportunity to display messages to the community. So if you wanted to put a message up that there was snow removal in this particular area, you can put up kiosk out of service, snow emergency, please don't park. So why is it that people look to introduce paid parking? That's a big question, becomes a controversy, but I think that it's, if you step back and look at it from a municipality perspective and a community perspective, then you'll recognize that there's a fiduciary responsibility. Somebody has to pay for the upkeep of a lot. Somebody has to do the striping, somebody has to do the cleaning, et cetera, et cetera. So you're offsetting some expenses. You have some operational efficiencies if done correctly. So from an enforcement perspective, you can go to a back office and look and see what your capacity is for a particular area. Do we need to enforce that area? Yes or no? And the system, because of the back office, will tell you what your capacity is. And so if you're at 98% capacity, you're not going to waste that resource's time by sending them around to check on people that are paid, as an example. The other aspect of this is your merchants. There's limited parking in a lot of municipalities. So where do people park? Well, employees will park in front of the business. Therefore, customers can't find the parking. Or if they do, they have to walk blocks to get there. So by putting in things such as a forced rotation, people need to move on from where they are. These are decisions that go into making up a solution for the community. It gives people an opportunity to get access to a park, perhaps. If people are parking there and no one's policing it or monitoring it, then they're free to park there all day long. So when you come along with your grandkids or with your children, you can't park in the park and enjoy it. So it does offer some conveniences for the community, which is important. So I'm going to give you some examples of parks in the area that are actually using paid parking. Minnewaska State Park, right on their website, $10 per car. They're charging for people to get into the park. Walk over to Hudson. Their information isn't on their website, but there's a sign posted. And if anyone's been there, you know, at least on the Poughkeepsie side, there's two parking lots. There's one parking lot, which is for the state-owned, state-run, and then there's another dirt lot, which a private entity actually lets people park there. Does he charge? Not at this time. But people will park in that dirt lot over the state lot. Municipalities. City of Poughkeepsie is one municipality local here that actually does charge. Town of Lloyd is introducing paid parking along Haviland Road. They've been working at it for a little bit. They've had some change in management and whatnot. But they're going to introduce it with one kiosk and probably 40 or 50 pay by phone signs where you can actually download it and pay for your parking. Colleges, universities. We have a number of colleges and universities that use our technology. University of Binghamton, University of Albany, the list goes on and on. Private entities. We actually deploy our technology for people who may own a surface lot. And so if you're going to go to a small city or village and you have a lot and you want to charge people to park there as a convenience to get to where they're going faster, people actually deploy the technology. So here's some results, because it really comes down to what makes sense for the village and what are some of the possible returns on this investment that they might see outside of the community having access to some of the amenities that they offer. There's a small surface lot that we manage, 50 to 75 spaces. 2 kiosks, that's it, just 2. And month to date, they did $13,580. 1 month. Year to date, $116,000.
Where was that?
Can't tell you where it is. But it's just a small lot in one of the area. I gotta be careful about that. So, but it's a small lot. They paid for the machines in just under 10 weeks.
Can you speak to the utilization, like the population utilization, or tourism footprint? If you can't tell us.
It's not a tourism, but it is a municipality. Not a municipality per se, but it's a city. Okay, so they do have people coming to the city on a regular basis. Okay, so as this community grows, you may find yourself that the revenues will increase exponentially. There's a gated lot, and month to date they did $18,490, 1 month. We have a municipality that has 7 kiosks, and they're relatively close to you. 7 kiosks, that's it for the whole city. And then they have the mobile app as well. And month to date, they did 8,000 at the kiosk and 12,000 through the mobile app. So getting back to what I talked about in terms of meeting people where the community wants to do business, you can see there's a trend not necessarily to go to kiosk in that city, but more in terms of the mobile app. And that depends on your demographic, right? If you have a demographic that's relatively young, everything's through the phone. Everything. So.
Excuse me, sir. Could I ask you to just speak up a little?
Oh, yeah, sure. I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Also, if we want the lights on, I don't know if it's helping to have the lights
Sure.
on, but I don't know what that
I thought it was going to be for the screen.
Yeah. What do you think? And
Is the mic working?
Yeah.
It is if you never turn it off.
Oh, you gotta turn it on.
It's on. I hear it.
Yep.
That's all.
Leave it low. That way
Sorry.
we can actually see.
Not a problem. Is that better?
Better.
Okay. So when you get into the realm of paid parking, there's various ways that you can actually set up the kiosks or the mobile app such that you can actually do a flat fee, $5 for the day or whatever the duration is. You can do it through a stepped configuration, 50 cents for a half hour, things of that sort. You can do a variable so that it steps up as time goes on. If you're there for an hour, it's 30 cents. If you're there for 2 hours, it's $2, et cetera, et cetera. So the platform is flexible. It gives you the opportunity to set up things that make sense for the community. I talked a little bit about forced rotation. Everybody understand what forced rotation is?
Could you explain it to us, please?
Absolutely. So forced rotation gets into the notion that you can park in a particular area, but you're only going to be able to park there for a period of time, 2 hours as an example. Okay? And then you have to move on. And that's to incite people to go to the local businesses and merchants and keep the people from parking there all day long. Okay? And you can also extend your stay, depending on how the system is set up. That's a decision that has to be made. So you could park in a particular area, and one area may give you the opportunity to take and buy more time without actually having to go back to the kiosk, as an example. Make sense? Then you get to enforcement. Somebody's got to enforce the use of meters and paid parking. It can be done through a visual inspection. Is there a sticker in the window or not? It can be done through a handheld, whether you're using a Passport or some of the other ones where you can actually take and scan the license plate and print a ticket right then and there. Or in some instances, people use third parties. The third parties are hired to come in and police it. And if your car is in violation, you may have to go find it. Right? So I've had an opportunity to talk with Mr. Rufin and Mayor Huber, and I know about the village and what you're seeking to do. And so I'd like to offer my recommendation, our company's recommendation, based on what I know. And that can change. That can change based on feedback that comes from the community, feedback that comes from the board. But here's an outsider looking in who's been doing this for probably 17 years now. So,
Do you have data on the impact to tax revenue before and after you implement the parking?
I don't, but I will tell you, probably one of our best customers was Cooperstown. The mayor at the time actually equated the revenues collected to the tax levy.
No, I'm talking, so totally get this ROI easily, without a doubt. I'm talking about the impact to the businesses before you had parking meters and after the parking
I
meters.
don't have access to that data.
That's my biggest concern. As a business owner, we compete with Beacon, Fishkill, and Newburgh. None of them have parking meters. Poughkeepsie turns their meters off at night. So we'd be the only municipality in the local area that would institute this. And it's tough enough to overcome the downtown village as it is. My concern is this is one more barrier for someone to come to the village.
I think you have to look at both sides, right? It's a barrier to come to the village, but if I want to use any of the amenities that the village has to offer, and someone's parked there because they work in the building next
totally
door,
get that.
then they're not coming anyhow, right? So it's kind of a double-edged sword, right?
Are those two separate issues?
I'm sorry?
Are those two separate issues? I think the issue is that we have cars that are parked in parking lots for longer than they should be there.
Right.
I think that's the issue. So doing paid parking to get people to move their car is two separate issues. I think that's where we're going.
Yeah,
The issue
the thought would be, another solution would be, we put up a sign that says, you can only park here for 2 hours, and to your point, it has to be enforced. And if we did that, I think that'd have the impact that we want, which is the forced rotation you're talking about, without the risk of parking meters. I'd be all for the parking meters if you can sell all the other municipalities to do it. Personally, I'm all in, because we would make a lot of money off this. My concern is that we'd be the only municipality in the area doing this, and they have choices, right? And they have choices where to go drink, eat, etc. And this is one more choice they have to overcome.
Understood. In the aspects of enforcement where you're doing observation, or you're putting a wheel chuck on a car, or some other means, there's actually ways you can get around that. All you have to do is search the internet.
Sure.
So it's not foolproof.
No.
It creates a burden for the enforcement officer. They spend their time going around looking at cars as opposed to knowing that everybody's in compliance. I don't need to go there. I know that Jim, is a merchant, so maybe I keep an eye on his car, but everyone else may park there and they're not entitled to. That's a big problem. Okay, and it also doesn't take into account who's going to maintain the amenities. Who's going to maintain the lot? Who's going to maintain the striping? Who's going to maintain the cleanup? You don't get that from just going around and forcing people to move from one spot to the next. Because what they do, inevitably, they move from, I'm sorry?
Don't taxis pay for that?
That I don't get into.
This could be another way to control the parking lots. So our lots have a maintenance code to it. They're supposed to be shut down on such days, like the Mill Street parking lot shut down on Monday, and I think the Franny Reese parking lot shut down like Tuesday or Thursday.
Tuesday and Thursday.
Tuesday and Thursday.
To 9:30 a.m. for parking maintenance, but it never happens.
It never happens, and when it also can help out in the wintertime. Again, we're just looking into this. No one says we're doing this. So it also can help us out in the wintertime where we have a problem with cars being in the lot, and the highway department has to go out and plow the lots, and these cars don't move. And then when these guys go home, the cars move, and the cars move from the spot with snow on it to a nice clean one, and then they come in to the board or they make phone calls to the trustees or myself and say the highway department never cleaned the lot. Like, so we can close the lot down in the wintertime, also have control of that for a snow event. So
Is there a system that you can take a picture of the car that's there and then enforce it that way?
Who's telling
Isn't
it?
there like a commissioner, fill me in if I'm incorrect. Isn't there a system where you can, take a picture on an app or something like that the police use, that they can say, okay, there's a car here now. 4 hours later, we can check, and because I know you can't mark tires anymore, that's illegal, right?
Well, that's actually in debate right now, but the parking enforcement handhelds that we're looking at do have the ability to take pictures.
Okay, so that could be done, and then you could enforce it and get them out of there without doing parking meters, question mark.
We can enforce parking regulations by signage.
Okay, but it would take a lot out of, you don't want to have a police officer there for 4 hours in a row waiting to see if people are there or not, right?
Yeah,
So
that would be possible.
the option would be to use whatever type of app or photography in some sort to mark that, okay, this car is here. And then, 4 hours later, you can say, hey, I took the picture. Or maybe there's a way to take a picture of all the cars and say, okay, these cars were here. Now we can write them a ticket. And then that solves the issue without having to harm the businesses by putting in meters.
Angela, if I may address that, Paul Italiano, police commissioner, can attest that our police right now are very busy catching criminals. That's their job. We can't expect that we're going to utilize our police officers as parking enforcement agents. It's not a tenable situation. So right now, how many constables do we have? We have
3 slated. I was asking
3 slated,
4
and
slots, but we have 3
currently we have one constable.
Currently, we have no constables.
Currently, we have no constables to do this. And we also currently we're looking at purchasing one of these passport meters, which in and of itself is expensive. That's a burden to the taxpayer. And then there's also a maintenance on that. And it has a very hard to rip thermal paper. It's actually a fiber paper. It's not like regular paper. So in case somebody gets the ticket and just rips it up, they can't actually do that. And it's all very expensive to the village.
If I could just say, for the gentleman sitting here, if we could just let you do your presentation and maybe we can save comments to the end. So if anybody has a comment, just keep it in mind. We're going to, I'm sorry, I forgot what your name was.
Todd Schroeder.
Mr. Schroeder, we'll let you do your presentation, and then at the end of your presentation, we can open up for some
I
questions.
am actually just about done.
Okay, very good. Thank
Because based on our expertise and what I know of the village today, we're recommending 2 kiosks. That's it, 2 kiosks. We're recommending a variable rate, one that's effective during the day, and then one that goes into effect in the evening, over hours. So when that asset for the village is sitting idle, it could actually be generating revenue and offsetting some of your taxes. We would also recommend integrating it with the handhelds so that it's efficient for the constables to go around and scan a plate and know whether or not they're in violation or not. And it makes it very quick. So the limited resources that you currently have would not necessarily have to spend time checking whether someone's been there, circling back around. Their time would be spent serving the public. So that's our recommendation.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Todd. Do you want to open it up for any questions now?
Any questions?
I'll just say the one last comment is, I would just ask that the village mayor, whoever's going to be investigating this, make them give you the data that shows before and after, right? The impact to the tax revenue.
Absolutely.
Minus what they're going to give us, right?
Yep.
In parking, because there's no doubt, put meters, we're going to make money. But if it comes at the expense of the traffic to the village, again, vis-a-vis, I go to Beacon, Fishkill, Newburgh, and I don't pay a dime. That's my biggest concern. If somehow they can assure us of that, there's no impact or maybe a benefit.
Mm-hmm. It's definitely something. It's definitely something to look into as a board and listen to the residents also. And the business owners. So
And just so you're aware, Mayor Huber and I had a discussion at length about putting meters on East Main Street and West Main Street. That
I was
we feel
against
would have a very big impact on businesses. Okay, just especially for people who want to stop at a shop and buy a sandwich. That meter's a huge deterrent, and then also the anxiety that it gives you. Oh, I have to pay the meter, and I don't want to stop for a sandwich, so I'm going to go somewhere on Route 9. We get it.
yeah,
The
We
two
still have
lots.
the enforcement issue, right? You just explained how taxed they are. Are they really going to, I know it's easier, I agree, it's much easier, but they're still going to have to take the handhelds, they're still going to have to go out and enforce it and not will catch criminals.
It's an investment, yeah, for constables and meters, and the added burden on our police is not realistic.
Mr. Mayor, we have someone else.
Hi, Laura McCarthy. First, I work in a data-led business, so I appreciate the piece of this where you're talking about the ability to monitor traffic and understand whether there's whether it makes financial sense to actually go and do enforcement on that particular day. I think that's really smart. I think that makes sense. I echo the sentiments of the gentleman who was saying that I think the thing that and I'm just one person, but the thing that I would want us as a village to understand is really is the breakdown of the math in terms of is whatever money we would get from enforcement of a 2-hour parking spot worth potentially having people spend less time in the village, or is it again, the enforcement issue, I completely agree, it is not worth it most of the time to have people out patrolling and enforcing, especially in a village of our size. But again, I think that could the same thing be achieved by a 2-hour parking sign to dissuade people from being overlong and taking advantage of limited parking resources? It will also state that the parking situation in the village, as we all know, is already very difficult, and so adding additional hurdles to that for people is something that I would want to understand. Again, I know there's a comprehensive plan in the works. I know that there's a village zoning code in the works. I would want to understand where expansion of parking and make creating some ease around that generally in a way that helps the village feel, especially downtown, feel more inviting to people to come down, because right now it is, I think most of the business owners here would probably say it's difficult to attract people to come down as is, especially when we have such bigger jumps kind of around us. But I would just want to make sure that from the big picture financial point of view, this does feel like a net benefit and not, understanding that short-term revenue is also important.
So when you consider utilization of a parking lot, what we were basing our numbers off of was not full utilization of lots. Hopefully that happens for our village, but probably not right now. So what we were looking at was 3/4 usage. So let's say Franny Reese has 16 spots. That's on West Main Street. So 3/4 of that is 12 spots. We're figuring 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. we charge $1 per hour, right? Well, if we do get that 3/4 usage, that would be 9 hours. So for those 12 spots, 9 hours a day, that's $108 a day. Now, the other thing that is kind of embarrassing to tell you is that we do have overnight parking restrictions, and John Carge is currently, our village clerk is currently issuing permits for that. They are unpaid permits. Those two properties, Franny Reese and the Mill Street parking lot, just so you're aware, are both village-owned properties. They are considered to be not open to the public if we choose as a village to close them to the public. It's not a right to park there, is what I'm trying to say. And people from the community are not just entitled to park there. That's something that you have to understand. I'm sure Paul can attest to that. In New York State, parking is unfortunately not a privilege. Do I like that? Maybe, maybe not. Doesn't matter. Okay, so 12 spots for 9 hours is $108 a day. And overnight parking, if you consider it at $35 per month for village residents, if we're going to charge that, and again, this is just spitballing here, that's $420 a month, and the parking revenue from the 12 spots at 9 hours a day is $3,240 for a total of $3,660 per month. Now, like you already heard from Mayor Huber, there's costs associated. At some point, that's going to need repaving, restriping. The meters need work. Constables will help because, I mean, I can't even tell you the amount of complaints we as board members hear about cars parked the wrong way on streets, people parking where they shouldn't on West Street. I mean, the police commissioner can attest to these things. You hear them all the time, right, Mr. Commissioner? Every single day. So the constable's jobs are not only going to be to police these lots and police cars, but to also go around the village and just make the flow of traffic better, which is part, like you said, you mentioned our comprehensive plan. On section 1.3 of our comprehensive plan is a transportation goal to encourage alternative modes of transportation to reduce vehicular traffic and provide sufficient but not excessive off-street parking in residential neighborhoods and commercial districts. So proposed parking meters, the members of the legislative committee anyway, feel that the meters will help to achieve that goal of the comprehensive plan by creating a financial incentives for residents to walk to shopping rather than drive within the village. More often than not, walking residents means more open spots for non-residents to park during business hours. So in a way, we're trying to help businesses. We're also not trying to put the meters on streets. That was something
Definitely not on the streets.
Mayor Huber was adamantly against. Just for Mill Street, the breakdown, again, using 3/4 usage is approximately $8,845 per month. But that is a great question, and I will definitely look up the impact on tax revenues of meters if we get to that point.
I just want to say again, I was here at the last meeting when it was brought up as well, but I don't think that there is, as far as anyone has made me aware, any plan for parking for business owners or employees of businesses where we will be able to park and at what cost, or like last time someone said, I can have my employees park at Columbus, but I'm not, I mean, I have young girls working for me. I don't want them walking down an alley at like 1 o'clock in the morning to a parking spot. You know what I mean? I don't think that's fair to them. It's not fair for me to ask them that. You know what I mean? If it's me, it's me. But so I think that also needs to be addressed. And in other towns, if they have parking meters, I've noticed sometimes it'll say something like first 15 minutes is free. So if you're ordering online or something like that, it's just something to take into account. So if you're picking up a sandwich at the Hog, say, or something like that, shouldn't be much more than in and out. 15 minutes might be enough of a grace period for certain people that are maybe picking up pizza or picking up sandwiches, and it won't deter that traffic, but it still maybe gets you the revenue that you're looking for.
Yeah, and those, again, there's not going to be meters on East Main or West Main Street, and hopefully if somebody just needs to run in, you know, they can find that.
Sure.
Trustee Williams and I have talked about that free 15-minute meter option as well. So, and again, with Todd and the mayor. So we're taking that into consideration.
Was that whole flexibility of the rate structure.
Okay.
And it's not, you know, one and done kind of thing. We have a customer over the Binghamton area, and they've changed their rates no less than 5 times, and they've only been in use less than a month. So they're getting familiar with what's happening and where people are migrating to park based on what's happening with the machines. And they only have 10. Everything else is paid by phone. So it does achieve, their grace period's 5 minutes. I don't understand if you give them longer to put your plate in the machine, but.
I don't know if I missed something, but so someone has to still enforce if people are paying the meter parking. How is that different than having someone enforce if someone's car is there for a longer period of time? That's where I'm missing the disconnect.
So what happens with the kiosks is every time there's a payment made, it reports back to a back office. And when you log in, depending on your preference, you can have your occupancy come up automatically. So if we have 16 spaces and all of them are paid, we're not sending anyone to enforce. We're not wasting their time.
Okay, so if there's 14 spaces, how do you know that I paid for my parking for the 15th spot? You still have to send someone out to enforce, correct?
If they're paying, they're going to be paying using their license plate, okay?
I'm saying if they're not paying, which is basically people not following the one rule versus people not following the 2-hour parking rules. How is that? If I go in and just park my car, I don't go to your little machine, I don't do anything, I just park my car.
So it's a cost benefit. That's where it comes in. You're not going to send a constable out if you have one person that's in violation of the policy. You're just not going to do it. He's got better things to be doing with his time.
You just wouldn't know. I mean, there's 7 of us. We could all park in there and not pay and walk away.
Right.
We could do that
And
now. Yeah.
you could absolutely do that.
right now, so, yeah.
You can absolutely do that, but if he's looking in the back office and he's seeing that the lot is virtually empty, he's sending somebody.
Excuse me, who's the one in the back?
Whoever's enforcing. I'm sorry, I'm using it,
Who's the back office?
whoever's doing enforcement and anyone the board opts to give access to. It's a reporting engine.
So I guess my point is if you have paid parking with an enforcement or non-paid parking with someone enforcing that cars aren't sitting there for 2 hours, what's the difference?
I think that's the thing. I know where you're coming from. It's basically, somebody might sample, I'm going to try it out and see how long I can go without paying for a ticket.
Because I think the issue isn't paid. I think the issue that we most in the village is that people are parking their cars for 5, 6, 7 overnight hours. I think most people can agree on that that's the issue, and that's why you want to do paid parking so people aren't doing that. But if we're not enforcing what we're still
It's still got to be in the law. Still got, or the parking permit still got to be enforced.
I agree.
So if you let it run out, who's going to enforce it? I think is that your question?
What I'm saying is that the feedback I'm getting is that we don't want to do the 2-hour, 4-hour parking because we don't want to send someone out to enforce. But we still have to send someone out to enforce if they pay for tickets. I really don't get it.
If I could just say, Mr. Schroeder came here tonight, and for most of us, this is the first time meeting you, and you obviously came here to do a presentation. And if this was something that the village felt that we were interested in or wanted to pursue further, a lot of the questions that you guys have tonight and the residents have would obviously need to be addressed. So right now, I think for tonight's purposes, we've seen what you have. This is very early in development, whether it's something that we might like, might not like, might consider, might not consider. It's not something that's been past just this presentation stage. So I understand everybody's got a lot of questions, but when it comes to, how will this be handled? How will that be handled? If we chose to go with something like this, then all those things would have to be developed because there would have to be a plan in place. It would involve the police commissioner. So I just don't think a lot of those things can be answered tonight, being that a lot of municipalities are different. People handle those things in different ways. But if we chose to go forward, then a plan would have to be put in place for that stuff to happen.
We're just looking into something. That's all.
No, that's I just like it didn't make sense to me. I mean, it makes sense to everyone else. It just didn't make sense to me. So I figured I'd ask.
And I think what people are just asking for is that clarification. I think they understand.
Right. And with just hearing the presentation going forward, we would definitely have to say, this is how we're going to handle that. We're going to dedicate this service and this money or this plan to that. So it's just, yeah.
I don't think anybody's trying to be offensive about this. I think people just really care.
I'm not even saying that you're defensive. I'm just saying he just doesn't have the answer because he doesn't know our particular municipality.
I did not think you were saying that. I'm sorry if that came across as whatever.
That's okay.
If I may please finish my thought. People care. People just want clarification. I don't have an opinion on this. I don't have enough information to have an opinion on this. I'm not the person who's going to make the decision. So I think this is just people wanting to understand what is in the minds of people and so that they can sit with this thing and form their opinions on it. But I appreciate your transparency. I appreciate letting us all into this conversation.
Mr. Mayor, if I
Yes.
may, the fact that there's so many people here who are concerned about this is letting us know people are interested. Your presentation, is it available for people to look at? Can we get copies of the PowerPoint? Do you have a website that people can look at?
Absolutely.
Give people information?
Absolutely. In fact, I believe Richard took a copy of it and is going to post it on your website. But if you wanted to check out Access Technology, it's ATIAccesstechnologyintegration.com. Pretty straightforward.
All right, Todd, thank you for your informational presentation.
Thank you, Tom.
You're welcome.
I'm going to help him set right down.
Sure.
Even though.
Yeah.
Can we have a motion for you to go into exec before you get into the legal notice?
I'll make that motion.
Can I have a second?
I'd like to invite Brooke into that.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Who was that?
James. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carry.
Carrie.
Going all the way?
You don't have business cards, do you?
The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return.
Trust me, I have 30 students at home now. Everybody has 30 credits.
Can I have a motion to return to the regular session?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. I second.
Opposed? Carried.
Okay. Notice of a public hearing. Before we get started, it's very important that I take notes of public hearings. It's very important that you go by the rules, which are that you will have an opportunity, if you want, to approach the mic, state your name, your business if you have one, or an address if you don't, and you'll be able to talk. It's not a debate. You'll be able to address the board with your concern and then take your seat afterwards. Is that clear for everyone? Okay. Board, you okay with all that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Notice is hereby given at the Board of Trustees, Village of Wappingers Falls, at which time, 6 o'clock, we missed that, at which time all parties in interest and citizens shall have an opportunity to be heard as to whether the Board of Trustees of the Village of Wappingers Falls shall adopt a proposed local law entitled Local Law 2 of the year 2023, imposing a temporary village-wide moratorium on residential, industrial, and commercial development. Please take further notice as the purpose of the intent and the purpose of the local law is to temporarily suspend all residential, industrial, and commercial development by the imposition of a temporary moratorium on the issuance of permits and approvals for such development for a period of 6 months from the effective date of the local law, or the effective date of the zoning law, whichever is first. Okay, Mayor, do you want to open it up?
Yeah.
Can I have, first of all, can I have a motion to open a public hearing?
I'll make the motion to open the public hearing.
Mike Ruffin.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay, Mayor.
Okay, any comments from the public? Any?
Hello, my name is Angela Hardesty. I am an investor in Wappingers. I know most of you. You know what we do. I'm 4 generations Wappingers. For those of you who don't know, we build on Main Street. My concern is that we've had such good forward movement on Main Street. We've had such positive wonderful building. We've had, I mean, even just looking at everyone here, every single person that's been here, that's here now, has been supportive of us. You've come to our village shops, you've been in our buildings, you see what we're trying to do, you watch us help grow. And that's what we're trying to create here. My concern is that stopping that would be detrimental to businesses. I don't really fully understand why the moratorium was suggested. I guess I kind of would like a little bit of clarity. I don't know what the reasoning would be. Maybe if we knew that reason, we could then say, hey, okay, what are the options of fixing that reason, you know? I also don't know if I believe that if we did this for 6 months, that it would just be 6 months, because then there would be the option to continue it. And that makes me nervous, because then 6 months turns into a year, and then a year turns into a year and a half. And now we've stopped businesses from growing, and we've stopped things from moving forward in Wappingers, which I know every single one of you don't want to stop moving forward on Main Street, at least. I don't know other reasons for other things. I've been told a lot of different things. I don't know what to believe. But my concern is just that, you know, I plan on purchasing a few other properties. If there is a moratorium, I'm not going to purchase these properties. And then I'm going to have to sell the restaurant building, you know, the one that we're doing, the 2 stories on Main Street next to the Franny May parking lot. I'm going to have to sell that. And then who knows who's going to come into it. Because to be honest with you, if I keep it, my heart is here. My grandparents owned that little building that's next to the Grinnell Library that is a lawyer's office. That used to be all county kitchens in the 80s. That was my grandparents. So I am from here. I've lived here my entire life. This is where I want to grow. I want to invest my money and my time and my energy into making this village beautiful. And you can see that. It's, you know, when Brian Murphy asks us for 5, we give him 10. So that's the, you know, I know builders have a bad rep because a lot of them come in. You've seen over time that builders have come in, they sit on things, they let them ripen, they don't do the right things when they go to build, they cut corners, they don't do what they're supposed to do, which we are the opposite of that. And it's important to me that we continue in that direction. My fear is if I sell my restaurant building, it's going to end up being some 5 and dime store. You know, it's not going to be the sushi martini bar. It's not going to be the oyster bar. It's not going to be the things that we want to see this village progress towards and improve towards. So I'm nervous.
Okay, thank you. Next.
Joe?
Mayor, how are you? And village members, I really...
Name, please.
Joseph Rivera Ramos, 2726 West Main. Thank you. So I'm really in support of understanding a little bit more about why the moratorium is necessary. I moved here 2 years ago with my partner, and we really looked at this village as the potential to grow and live for the rest of our lives here. And we really got very excited to see that things started to progress a great deal very fast. And I understand that that might shock our system a little bit, but mostly I want to prevent our investors and people that are coming in and potential tourists that are expecting something to happen here to then be delayed. And that might halt the momentum that we're experiencing right now. And I'm part of the Village of Wappinger beauty movement, and we're really trying to understand like what's the next step in terms of getting investors and people to pay for beautification projects and support, and paying for things like the water needs of those types of plantings. And I fear that like people like businesses that Angela and Antonio, a number of people that are here representing that are really developing and building, are going to kind of be afraid of moving forward with their projects. And I would love more than anything to support that. I'm here to understand a little bit more why the moratorium is necessary and why the delay.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Joe. Anybody else? Mrs. Regan?
Regan for Park Avenue. My questions are, why did this come about? When did it come about? What is the background behind it? Because nothing is explained in that agenda other than we want to do a moratorium. Is that effective today? Is it effective in 4 months? People are in the middle of building at the moment some wonderful projects, and to stop that is just not right for this village. I mean, you're also prohibiting people from buying derelict buildings and putting them back on the tax rolls. So I would like some clarification as to why this is even being discussed. You know, does it have to do with services, water, sewer, you know, taxing the current services that we have? Or is there another reason? I think it needs further explanation as to why you're thinking of doing this.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Jackie?
Jackie.
Well, my name is Jackie Muller. I'm owner of Dynamic Intervention Wellness Solutions on Market Street. And unlike Angela, who's lived here her entire life for generations, I hope my next generations continue to be here. I recently moved here right before COVID. I own a house on West Street, and I own the building on Market Street now. And I recently called to find out about the possibility of using another piece of property that I have in the village, and I want to have some clarity on the moratorium as well as I want to just say, like, I know all of you see those of us like Angela and myself, we're really trying to make the village vibrant, bringing events here so that people recognize that Wappingers is a place to come to for community activities and families to have experiences that they can enjoy together during the First Saturday events. We're trying to work well with the Recreation Committee. I joined the Recreation Committee, and we just want to continue to see our community grow. And whether you're here for generations or you're just coming for a visit, we want everyone to feel included and feel like they've experienced something wonderful. So I hope that we can get clarity to that.
What was the name of your company again?
Dynamic Intervention Wellness Solutions.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Rich?
Rich Hollister, on Market Street, Divine Wine Bar. I hope everyone understands, and I'll echo the comment and the question. I think we all deserve, quite frankly, a true explanation of why we feel a moratorium is necessary. So I'll just put that out as a general statement. I would ask that we get that full, transparent presentation to us at some point. The other point I'll start off with is just your reputation is your currency. All right, and even having this conversation publicly is extremely dangerous. It's equivalent to Amazon saying we're going to potentially shut down Amazon for the next 6 months because our servers potentially might not work. Imagine what happened to their stock price, right? I'm an investor, I'm a business person. I'm already nervous that the possibility that we might run out of water or not have sewer services or whatever the reason is very scary to me. And I am going to absolutely have to rethink my investment strategy in the village. And I don't want to, right? To Angela's point, I own many buildings in the village because I believe in the village, right? This is the next beacon, if you will. This is the next growth spot for Dutchess County. We should be focusing our energy and our resources to fix the problem, not putting a moratorium in place. A moratorium does not solve the problem, right? If it's really that desperate, you're sending a very dangerous message to the investment community and to the residents at large that their homes and their businesses are at risk. And if things are really that bad, then we really need to sit down and have a conversation. You have a lot of smart people in this room with resources that can help you all, right? And I don't know what the answer is of how to fix whatever the issue is, because I don't know what the issue is. But I'm willing to help out to fight the issue and address the issue, to get that fixed. But putting a moratorium out there is extremely dangerous. And again, whether it's 6 months or 12 months, you've already sent a message to the community that you have the potential to invest your money here and not be able to get it back. All right. The other thing I would ask you to think about is for the next 6 months, as investors, even residents, what are we to do? All right. No one's going to compensate us for all the time, money, investments. I want to go through all the aggravation that this would cause. And it's not going to solve the problem. right? And that's why I say, I don't understand what the problem is. So part of the challenge here is not understanding truly what the problem is. And for that, I don't have a great response. Right? I'd rather talk about the problem and come up with solutions to that problem than shut down the village. All right? And I'll just ask you to really reconsider our reputation, because as an investor, what you're going to do, right? You would sell your Amazon stock and go buy their stock. Right? What are you going to do here in the village? You're going to stop investing your money in the village and go to any other community in the county area that is not putting out a moratorium. So I really strongly, hopefully you understand the dangerous message you're putting out there. And if you actually go through with this, you are absolutely going to shut down the village for a very long time. It's going to be very difficult to get investors to come back here knowing that you're going to shut down the village, and you could easily do it again next year, right, or the year after. It's a very, very dangerous proposition you're putting out there. So I really strongly urge you to, this should be your last motion we do is shut down the village.
Thank you.
How are you? Chris Bro, for Upper Henry Street, investor and a homeowner. I'm a little confused. Like, we talked about putting parking meters in to push these, storefronts, and then we're going to turn around and hinder the same people who invest into the village. I just don't understand why we would do that. We're going to hinder the investors, but yet we're still trying to put parking meters in to build them up. Take care of the people who put into this town and put into this village, and not tie their hands. That's all I ask.
Thank you.
What was your last name again?
Ross, B-R-O-A-S.
Danielle Rose, for Upper Henry Street. And like my husband said, we also invest in the village. And we want to continue to invest in the village. My husband and I own a very profitable business in Beacon. We get calls all the time to invest in Hudson, Kingston, all those up and comings. And we've decided that we want to invest here in the village. And, like everyone's saying, it's very scary. What if we bought a property and then you say we can't do anything for it for 6 months? I mean, everyone knows time is money, to just sit on it. And like you said, it does deter people. I mean, we're not looking to come in and there's a lot of things that need to be repaired. We're not just going to tear down these beautiful buildings. There's a lot of things that need to be repaired in the village. And I think we're on the right track with a lot of these beautiful new buildings that are coming in and new businesses and doing all these great things. First Saturday just took off. I know you were around hiding, scavenger hunting. And, so we're doing a lot of great things. So just to come out and say we're no longer going to do anything without giving anyone a reason as a resident, not even as an investor, but as a resident of the village, I just don't understand how you can tell us we're not doing it and not giving us a reason. So,
What was your name again?
Danielle Bross, B-R-O.
Oh.
Because, we're together. Kind of like them.
Hi, my name is Laura McCarthy. I live at 8 North Mizzier. I am a member of the planning board. I do want to clarify that what I will say here has nothing to do with the views of the planning board. They're my own personal opinions. I'm a pretty practical person. I'm also really optimistic about the future of the village. I think it's very heartening to see how many people are coming in and excited to do things in a way that feels right, like restoring things, bringing things back to glory, really investing in the existing infrastructure of the village. I appreciate seeing that a lot, and it's been very heartening to see the momentum that has been forming around that recently. I am practical. I understand that we have a new zoning code coming in. I understand that we don't want people doing things that are out of line with that zoning code, in the interim while we are waiting to get that adopted. I very much appreciate that if that is part of what's driving this, I appreciate that. I would encourage the board to please prioritize the adoption and the finalization of that. I understand these things are complicated. Government is complicated and it takes a long time. But to whatever extent my voice here can encourage that to be a priority in terms of making that happen with any amount of speed possible while remaining thoughtful and purposeful with that action. I do want to voice my support for that so that should there need to be a moratorium. And I personally don't necessarily support that approach, but I also, again, I'm practical. I understand the necessity sometimes of taking a beat to think about how we can do things properly, correctly, how we can catch up with existing infrastructure needs within the village. But I would say that should we need to do that, I would hope to see, one, the time on that come down significantly. 6 months does feel like a lifetime when you're talking about development, and I do fear that there is a risk of losing investment in the village, again, at a point when that feels very fragile but very positive. And I would also ask again for just to think about like common sense adoptions that can be made to that would, again, make it possible for people who have projects that are in process, for people who are not doing things that are going to truly upend something, that are going to be repairs or improvements versus total reinventions or bulldozing lots or things like that. Again, find ways to, if we can, I personally support finding common sense things to add into that to make this feel more workable and something that does make it feel like we're more trying to, encourage thoughtful development, meaningful, like well-purposeful development without fully putting the brakes on it.
Would you spell your last name?
Of course, MCC, ARTHY.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else?
All right. Can we have a motion to close the public hearing?
Is there a motion to close the public hearing?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Aye.
Carried. Want me to go?
Yeah.
Okay. Next item on the agenda is a resolution number 4623 of 2023, a resolution adopting local law number 2 of the year 2023, imposing a temporary village-wide moratorium on residential, industrial, and commercial development. Can I have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Second?
Who?
I'm asking there's a second.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Aye.
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 Wait. Opposed? Who was it?
Myself.
Mike Ruffin.
Ruffin and Trustee Tilichek.
Let's do a roll call vote.
Okay.
Trustee Williams.
Aye.
Trustee Nicholas.
Aye.
Trustee Ruffin.
Opposed? Nay.
Trustee Tilichek.
No.
Trustee Nesnick.
Aye.
And I am a nay.
Mayor.
Nay.
The motion did not carry. 3 ayes. This trustee is absent. That's a no vote. That counts as a no vote. And there's 3 nays. That's 4. It did not carry. Okay, next on the agenda. Discussion
Not resolution.
Resolution number 4523 of 2023, Village of Wappingers Falls Village Board would like to hire a deputy building inspector part-time, and that's Mark Lieberman. Can I have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Who second?
Joe. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Okay. Now, we're going to do a discussion on the boathouse rental procedures.
I'd like to table that.
I have a motion to did you want to table it to the next meeting, or?
Next meeting.
Okay. Discussion flagpole, Darrigan Park, Lower Market Street.
I would say, can we just go out and buy a flagpole for this park? This park is.
I'll make that motion.
It's been there for a couple of years. There's no flagpole. We shouldn't be discussing it anymore.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor from Trustee Tilichek for the village board to purchase a flagpole. And, well, let me finish because there's more to it than that. to purchase a flagpole, and then we would have to either have it mounted by our team in-house or go out and hire a contractor to put it up.
I'll see if our highway guys can do it.
Okay. And then I'll buy the flag.
Awesome.
Okay.
Time.
Can I have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. The next item I'm going to speak about briefly, since I'm the liaison to the Mizzier Homestead. Yeah, if you want to, people want to go, now's your chance. I'm the liaison to the Mizzier Homestead, and I'm aware that we've been having a problem with the company that's handling the security at the moment. They have kind of taken on only the responsibility of monitoring. They're not fixing anymore. They're not replacing some of the sensors that need to be taken care of. So I've arranged a meeting with Bill Stickle from the Homestead Historical Society to meet with another company, Doyle Security, that most of the village uses anyway for our other buildings. And I'll be doing that soon. So at the next meeting, board, I would like to come back and tell you what Doyle proposes as in comparison to what we have today. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Trustee Telishay?
I'm just wondering if when you do that, one of the things we had previously discussed was putting cameras in various parks. If they're working on something, can those two things be somehow brought together?
I can get two proposals. I'll get it in two flavors. One will be just a security element of it, and then cameras. Is that?
Yeah. Just
Is
see
that
what
okay?
our options are.
Okay.
Thank you.
I will do that, and I'll put this on the agenda for the end of September. That's when we do our discussions, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Sounds good. Table to the end of.
Okay. I will do that. Is the board okay with that?
Yep.
Okay, discussion to approve conflict counsel for investigation. I think that's table. We're going to table that?
Or for executive session. Or for executive session.
Okay. Okay, I got involved in the last printed portion of the agenda too. I spoke with Charlie Ferry, who's very active with his team on the Parks Committee. And they want to move forward with that committee, but I know that your liaison, Trustee Smith, has resigned from all committees, I think temporarily or for good. And the board will need to appoint another person to be liaison. I don't know if you can do that tonight or you want to wait.
Anybody want to be liaison with Parks?
That commission is very eager to get going, and they can without someone from the board.
Well, we can appoint Charlie Ferry as chairman of the.
Well, he's willing to do that, but you had a liaison. I guess there's two different positions,
yeah.
Right? So if you want to hold off on the liaison for now, Charlie can he would take that on. Okay. So I'll tell Charlie he's been kind of tasked as being the chairman for that committee. And we also have some members, two new members, Kathy Regan and her daughter, want to join that committee, along with Beth, Jimmy Chase, and Billy Fulton. And they feel they would have enough members at that point.
We would like to have one more member, maybe.
Okay, well,
From the other, we have a lot from this board I don't know what the board's. 3.
well, I think you've done a great job of recruiting members. If you want to recruit one more.
Be a member, Joe?
From the different wards.
Okay, so your team can do that. The other questions were, where can they meet and when can they meet? I suggested that they meet at the Legion Hall. I just didn't have a time frame, unless you guys want to think of what would be good for you,
I think,
and then call me to make sure there isn't a conflict.
I think we wanted
And if we wanted to be more official, we're right now meeting in Mizzier Homestead, but if we had a regular meeting place, we can do it at the Legion. And I'll call with Heather or somebody to set up.
Well, the board isn't prepared right now to give you a time and a place where to meet.
I would leave it up to the committee for a time and a place to meet.
What's convenient for you, tell me, and then I'll set it up.
It's their committee, so.
I think we wanted something more official. That was Charlie's feeling that, we were kind of meeting on the porch
Okay.
of Mizzier at one time, and he felt if we're an official committee, like Recreation is a committee, I don't know whether they have a place where they meet too. I think it was just, we really felt that there needed to be something more official about the committee.
So recreation meets at the village hall. If you wanted to have parks and recreation together, we could come all together and one here.
Well, that's also when Lake meets, but
Yeah, it all falls in
I don't know if
together.
we could offer the cobbler shop as a meeting place. Thought.
You could do that. The cobbler shop, the shoe shine park up there.
Yeah, I know. I mean, we can meet at the Legion, and we can meet at Mizzier. I think we
Yeah.
just felt that we.
Well, winter months, we wouldn't want you on the front porch in the winter months talking about the park.
Go inside. I have the key.
Could you explain what committee this is?
Can we have a motion maybe from the board that would allow the Parks Commission to pick a time and place where they would like to have their meeting?
I'll make a motion.
Okay.
Second it.
I got a motion from trustee Williams, seconded by
All parts.
I heard John.
Yeah, I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Carried. Opposed? Carried.
Carried.
Okay, that's official. All right.
House clean?
Mayor and board, that completes the printed portion.
You got the house cleaning on the
House
finance?
clean.
Sorry. Correct.
Housekeeping.
I need a motion to approve the housekeeping that the treasurer and I put together as in your agenda. Can I have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Okay, that completes the portion of the printed agenda.
Get a motion to go in the, comments from the board? Public?
Right, there is two resolutions at the end of the packet here.
Yeah, I signed that. I gave that to John today.
I have it with me.
Oh, you do? Okay, so
Yep.
you can go ahead and vote on that resolution then.
I have it. It's signed by all three parties. So the two resolutions, board, are in the back of this.
Yep.
Let me get to it. We did the deputy building inspector, that's done. Resolution number 4823, equitable vacation adjustment for one of the water department laborers. Can I have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
For a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution number 4723, 2023. Equitable step increase for a part-time police officer. Can I have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Second.
Mike. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Carried. Thank you. I think that concludes the printed portion.
All right.
Question in the back, Mayor.
Okay. Kathy had hers
I
up.
just wanted to ask, are there plans for a 9/11 ceremony?
John? Good question.
There are not any plans at the moment.
But there will be, because we can't say that.
I don't have an answer for you, but I will get back to you.
Okay, here you go.
Joe?
Is it open for an announcement?
Yep, public announcement, yep.
So, I'm Joseph Rivera Ramos again. I'm with Rebuilding Together Dutchess County. We've extended our deadline for applications for home repairs and modifications, accessibility modifications for those people that are in need. I'm really wanting very much so to encourage as many village residents to apply for this. The due date is on September 30th now. I'm their outreach coordinator, so it's a really important task that I have. And we've been going into a lot of the rural areas around all of Dutchess County, but I would really love to see some projects here in the village. If any of you know someone that might be in need and is on a qualified level, all of the descriptions are in the packet. If you can hand this to either a friend, family member, or neighbor, someone that you know, family that's going through a hard time and can't repair their rooftops, staircases, that sort of thing. We do all of this at no cost with sponsorships and grants. And I'm just going to leave this out.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else from the public?
I'm going to talk as part of the First Saturday Committee. I think we went really well last month, and everybody, I saw a lot of people there. So
Good
we're
time.
looking forward to another event this month, the black and white one. In the discussions that we're having, it was also brought up that in the upcoming months, we have some specialty performers, I guess an ice carver and something like that does winter kind of activities. We wanted to see if we could have for consideration to pair that up with a holiday parade. I don't know if that's possible, so.
It's something we have to look into because the holiday parade usually falls the Saturday after
Before,
Thanksgiving.
right?
And we got another whole week to go. Yeah, so
We can bring that up in the rec meeting.
bring that up in the rec meeting, John? All right,
Absolutely.
thanks.
I just have one thing I want to address before you
Sure,
do the
Commissioner.
packet that I gave you on a robbery that we had last night or yesterday in Home Depot, which resulted in a pursuit through Dutchess County out into Putnam County and ended on 84. 3 people were taken into custody. They're from a violent gang in New York City out of Brooklyn called the Rich Bosses Gang. You can see there were significant proceeds taken from Home Depot on 2 different occasions. Detective Sergeant Farrell did an outstanding job of coordinating with other departments, intelligence sharing, and she actually culminated this all together between all the departments where these people are going to be charged in Ulster and Dutchess and New York City. And we just received calls from some federal agencies today that are also interested in it. So that was done. 2 of them went to jail last night, and the 3rd one was released. So everything is in that report in front of you. I just ask that you keep the back page of that report confidential amongst yourselves because there is some information in there that should not. Thank you.
Thank you.
Get mine back. Just read it.
Thank the officers, please.
Please thank the officers.
Anybody else from the public? Board members?
I have a motion to go into executive session.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Not in the